So, what if you could literally hack your own reality? Today, we're diving into a pretty radical idea. What if we could redesign our lives to be just as engaging, just as addictive as the best video games out there? We're cracking open Jane McGonigal's Reality is Broken to build a real world blueprint for a more creative and, honestly, a more fulfilling life. And this quote from the philosopher Bernard Suits, it just nails it. He's saying that games aren't just a silly waste of time, they're clues to the future. They literally give us a blueprint for how we can build a better, more engaging version of reality itself. Which brings us to McGonigal's core idea. Have you ever had that feeling where real life just lacks something? It doesn't have those clear goals, that instant feedback, or that epic sense of purpose you get from a great game. Well, that feeling is exactly why she argues that reality, in a lot of ways, is broken. And it's why we're so naturally drawn to game worlds. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to diagnose exactly why reality feels so broken. Then, we'll get into the 4 secret rules that make games work. From there, we'll build out our analog and digital toolkits. And finally, this is the really cool part, we'll learn how to craft a personal meta-narrative to absolutely crush any creative goal you have. So here's the thing. The problem isn't that games are too good. It's that reality often just doesn't measure up, right? It doesn't always give us that satisfying work, that tangible feeling of progress, or the strong social connections we crave. This is what leads to what one economist calls a mass exodus, millions of us flocking to virtual worlds where we feel more powerful and more fulfilled. And get a load of this number, 3 billion. That is the number of hours we, as an entire planet, spend playing games. Every single week. Now, that's not laziness. It's a signal. It's a sign of a huge, unmet hunger for the kind of engagement that our day-to-day reality just isn't providing. So, what's the fix? Well, it isn't to just stop playing games. It's to reverse engineer them. We can actually take the core design principles that make games so powerful and apply them directly to our own lives, fixing what's broken. And this brings us to a really important definition. What is a game anyway? Well, McGonigal boils it down to 4 key things. You need a goal, some rules, a feedback system, and you have to be doing it voluntarily. Think about it. A game is really just choosing to take on unnecessary obstacles just for the fun of beating them. This simple framework is the key to everything. And here are those 4 traits in action. The goal, that gives you focus and purpose. The rules, they're not just there to limit you, they force you to be creative. The feedback system, oh, this is so crucial. It's that progress bar, that little chime that tells you you're getting closer. And voluntary participation, that's what gives it all meaning. When we choose the challenge, the work becomes play. This is the recipe. Okay, so how do we actually use this stuff in the real world? Let's look at a few awesome analog happiness hacks. Think of these as little building blocks you can use to make your own life, especially your creative habits, way more playful. All right, so instead of just slogging through your chores, you could be playing a game called Chore Wars. Suddenly, cleaning the bathroom isn't a drag, it's a quest. You're earning XP, you're leveling up your avatar. Now, let's swap that out. What if it wasn't Chore Wars, but Chapter Wars? Imagine earning experience points for every 500 words you write, or finding a rare loot drop when you finally nail a tough scene. See how that changes things? Or maybe you need to get out of a social rut, or hey, do some character research for that story you're writing. Try a game called Cruel to Be Kind. The whole point is to assassinate other players, but your only weapon is a genuine act of kindness. And since you don't know who's playing, you end up being kind to everybody, turning your whole day into this amazing social experiment. And to really train your powers of observation, check this out. It's called Tombstone Hold'em. It turns a walk through a cemetery into a game of poker, where you use the dates and symbols on the headstones as your hand. It sounds a little weird, I know, but it forces you to see your environment with this incredible focus, which is an amazing workout for any writer or artist looking for those perfect details. Now, let's level up. Moving from the analog world to the digital, technology opens up even more powerful ways to use these game mechanics, especially when we're trying to tackle really complex problems or manage big creative projects. This shows the unbelievable power of crowdsourcing when you turn it into a game. Think about it, trying to sift through thousands of historical documents for your next novel. For one person, that's a nightmare. But frame it as a massive collaborative treasure hunt for 1,000 people. It becomes this exciting adventure. You can use this exact same idea to gamify the research for pretty much any creative project. And this is just incredible. It proves that you don't need a PhD to solve mind-bendingly complex problems. The game Foldit let thousands of regular people tackle protein folding like it was a 3D puzzle, and their collective brainpower solved problems that had stumped scientists for years. It just goes to show you that a well-designed game can unlock some serious human potential.
Okay, so we've gathered all these individual tools and tricks. Now it's time to put it all together. The real power, the boss level of all this, comes from creating a meta-narrative, basically an overarching game or story that you design for yourself to conquer those big, long-term goals, especially those tough creative habits.
One really cool strategy here is something called chaotic storytelling. The idea is you break your project's story into little fragments across a bunch of different platforms. This is great for engaging an audience, but you can also use it on yourself. You scatter your notes, your plot points, your character sketches across different apps or notebooks. It forces you to actively piece it all together, turning your own creative process into an immersive game of discovery. And this gives you a practical toolkit to do just that. Just imagine it for a second. You could use a secret blog for your main character's diary. You could post cryptic video clues about your plot on YouTube. Or you could use Twitter for live updates from inside your story's world. You're not just writing a story anymore, you're building a whole alternate reality game around your creative process. But this right here, this is maybe the most powerful framework of all for your personal meta-narrative, the Super Better method. And it is perfectly designed for any creative challenge. You're not just a writer anymore, you're Alex the novel finisher. Your bad guys aren't just feelings, they're procrastination and writer's block. And your power-ups? They're small, winnable creative exercises that give you a boost. It turns a lonely struggle into an epic, winnable quest. So we've diagnosed the problem, we've got the blueprint, and we've built the toolkit. Now we get to the final level. The challenge gets turned back to you.
The whole mindset shift is right here. We need to start seeing games as happiness engines. The goal is not to escape from reality. It's to take the engine of a game, its amazing power to motivate us, to engage us, to spark joy, and install it directly into our real-world goals and projects. So I want you to think about a creative goal you have right now. What's one tiny, unnecessary obstacle, one little rule you could add to make it feel more like a game? Maybe you try to write a whole paragraph without using the letter A. Maybe you have to level up your drawing skills by adding one new technique every single day. The right kind of creative rules can unlock some amazing focus and commitment. And that, right there, is the ultimate quest. We have the tools. We have the blueprint. Games have already taught us everything we need to know about being resilient, motivated, and collaborative. So the only question left is, what happens when we finally turn all of that power back onto reality itself? The next level is yours to design.